Part Chinese, part Australian, but when a Turk dies, it's 100% Billy the Murderer Singh. Singh was born on the 2nd of March 1886 in Claremont, Queensland, Australia to the son of a Chinese father and an English mother. His parents were John Singh, a drover from Shanghai, China, and Mary Ann Singh, a nurse from Kingswith, Staffordshire, England. Singh's mother was given birth to a daughter as well, named Mary Ann Elizabeth Pugg, on the 28th of May 1883, less than 2 months before marrying Singh's father on the 4th of July 1883. It was unclear whether this child was actually John Singh's daughter as well. A daughter, Beatrice Singh, was later born into the family on the 12th of July 1893. The three children grew up together on the farm run by the Singhs, and they all performed very well academically in school and other sporting activities. There were considerable anti-Chinese sentiment in Australia and pretty much all over the world, and kind of anti-Asian as well. But as a boy, Singh was well known for his sharp shooting skills. But there was a subject of racial prejudice due to his ancestry of being half Chinese. He began work hauling timber as a youth, and later he would work as a stocksman and then a sugarcane cutter. Singh became well known for his marksmanship, both as a kangaroo shooter and as a competitive shooter. In the latter role, he was actually a member of the Posho Pine Rifle Club. He regularly won prizes for his shooting and also played cricket with skill. On the 24th of October 1914, 2 months after the outbreak of war, Singh enlisted as a trooper of the Australian 5th Light Horse Regiment of the Australian Imperial Forces. His certificate of medical examination at the time showed that he stood at 5'5" and weighed about 141 lb, which is about 64 kilograms. According to John Laws and Christopher Stewart, he was accepted into the army only after a recruitment officer chose to disregard the fact that Singh was actually part Chinese. At the time, there were only European ancestry who were generally considered to be suitable for Australian military service. They land at Gallipoli, Turkey, the best place for sniping. Mountains, grass, shrubbery, brown bush, and of course, with the terrain and the uniforms, the Turks fit in well. Each side sent out marksmen to hunt, stalk, and snipe and wait until they can shoot and kill, creeping with stealth through the green and brown shrubbery. Singh patterned with his spotter Iron Jack Idishir and then later Tom Sheenan. The spotter's task was to observe, spot the surrounding terrain and alert the sniper of a potential target. Normally, the actual spotter would actually be the more experienced sniper, and the person behind the gun would be a more experienced marksman. Idris, who would actually go on after the war to become an Australian notable author who made Finn in the Inlands, would describe Singh as a little chap, very dark, with a jet black mustache and a goatee beard. A picturesque man killer. He was a crack shot of the Anzacs. Singh's reputation resulted in the champion Turkish sniper named Abdul the Terrible by the Allied side being assigned to deal with him. Tate allegedly said that the Turks were largely able to distinguish Singh's sniping from other Anzac soldiers, and that the only reports of the incident believed that Singh's work were passed on to Abdul. Through analysis of the victim's actions and wounds, Abdul concluded that Singh's position was at Chatsman's Post. After several days, Singh's spotter alerted him to a potential target and they took aim, only to find the target, which was Abdul the Terrible, looking in his direction. Preparing to fire, trying not to reveal his position, but the Turkish sniper Abdul noticed him and began his own firing sequence. Singh fired. First shot, killed Abdul. Very shortly thereafter, the Turkish artillery fired on Singh's position, but Chatsman's Post was actually very close to the Turkish artillery, which did not bother him at all, but they did barely manage to evacuate from Chatsman's Post alive. Near the beginning of August 1915, Singh was hospitalized for 4 days with influenza. That same month, an enemy sniper bullet struck Sheen's spotting telescope, injuring his hand and face, and then hit Singh in the shoulder, but the latter went back into action after a couple of weeks of recuperation, while Sheenan was actually severely wounded and was actually shipped back to Australia. This was reportedly the only time that Singh was actually injured at Gallipoli. He would not fare well on the Western Front for the rest of the war, however. But first, regimental records list Singh as having 150 confirmed kills, but on the 23rd of October 1915, General William Birdwood, command of the Anzac forces, issued an order complimenting him for his 201 unconfirmed kills. If the first shot misses the target, it was very risky to take another shot. Major Stephen Migley estimated Singh's tally to be as close as 300 kills, almost as close as Peg Magabo. Migley brought him to the attention of Birdwood, who in turn brought him to the attention of Lord Kitchener, that said, if his troops could match the capacity of Queensland snipers, the Allied forces would soon be in Constantinople. Birdwood had reportedly joined Singh as a spotter on one occasion, and he actually had the opportunity to witness his marksmanship firsthand. In February 1916, Singh was mentioned in dispatches by General Sir Ian Hamilton, commander of the Allied forces at Gallipoli. This was actually one of the first official recognitions for his service. On the 10th of March 1916, he was awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal, which was related entirely for military records reading, for conspicuous gallantry from May to September 1915 at Anzac, a sniper. His courage and skill were most marked, and he was responsible for very large numbers of casualties among the enemy, no risk being too great for him to take. Apart from recognition he had received from all his superiors, Singh's exploits were actually reported in British and American newspapers of the time. At the end of November 1915, Singh had suffered from meltdown, and then he was confined to the hospital ship, Her Majesty's Hospital Ship Gloucester Castle, for almost 2 weeks. During this time, he was converted to Malta and then Istanbul, Egypt. While in Egypt, he also was hospitalized for proctitis and mumps. Australian soldiers stationed in Egypt, including Billy Singh, were major customers of Egyptian prostitutes in the local red light districts and brothels. High prices by the prostitutes led to the Washers red light area becoming a scene for a major riot for the New Zealanders and the Australian soldiers on Good Friday in 1915. Singh transferred to the 31st Infantry Battalion on the 27th of July 1916 at Tel El Karabab, and then set sail for England the following month. Following a brief period of training in England, he sailed for France and then entered action on the Western Front in January 1917. He was wounded in action several times and then commended many times in reports by Allied commanders. In March 1917, he was wounded in the left leg and hospitalized in England. In May 1917, while recovering in Scotland, he met a waitress named Elizabeth A. Stewart, who was the daughter of the Royal Navy cook George Stewart. The two were married on the 29th of June 1917 in Edinburgh. In July 1917, Elizabeth Singh's address was noted in the records as 6 Spring Gardens, Stockbridge, Edinburgh. After a few months with his new wife, Singh returned to the trenches of France in August 1917, but he was in very poor health due to his battle wounds and the effects of gas poisoning. It was not clear whether he served as a sniper on the Western Front, but in September 1917, he led a unit of the Battle of Polygon Woods, which was in a counter-sniper operation. For his actions, he was awarded the Orders Courage de Belgian Corps de Guerre in 1918, and he was recommended for a military medal but never received it. Singh returned to Australia on submarine guard duty in late July 1918. An army medical report from the 23rd of November 1918 noted that he had gunshot wounds in his left shoulder, his back and his left leg, and that he had suffered severe gas poisoning. The report stated that his general health was good, but then he complained for coughing until exertion. It was recognized that Singh's disabilities were the results of service, and that they were permanent, and that he must be immediately and permanently recommended to be discharged for permanently unfit service. Following his departure from the army, he briefly turned his hand to sheep farming, but the land he was given was of poor quality, and then he worked as a gold miner. In contrast to his fame during World War I, Singh died in relative poverty and obscurity in West End, Brisbane. In later life, Singh reported chest, back and heart pain. His final days were spent in relative poverty and obscurity. His elder sister or half-sister Mary Ann Elizabeth had also died in childbirth in 1915. In 1942, Singh moved from Maclear to Brisbane, telling his surviving sister Beatrice that it was cheaper to live there. His final occupation was a labourer. Singh died alone in his room, a boarding house in West End, Brisbane, on the 19th of May, 1943. The cause of death was rupture to the artery. His only significant possessions were a hut worth around £20 on a mining claim and a mere 5 shillings found in his room. There was no sign of no medals from World War I, and his employer only owed him £6 in wages. Singh was buried in Lutwyche War Cemetery in Kenrod, a northern suburb of Brisbane. His grave is now part of the Lawn Cemetery section of the Lutwyche Cemetery, and the inscription on his headstone reads, "At rest, William Edwards, Billy Singh, DCM, born Clement, Queensland, 2nd or 3rd, 1886 to 1905-1943. Regiment number 355 Australian 5th Light Horse Regiment, and then later the 35th Infantry Battalion. Son of John Singh, born Shanghai, and Mary Ann, near Pubshire, England, and married to Elizabeth Stewart in Edinburgh, 29/6/1917. A man of all trades, Peter Singh was awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal for conspicuous gallantry and the Belgian Croix de Guerre, and mentions often of his dispatches. Serving at Gallipoli in France from 1915 to 1918, he became known as the Australians' most effective marksman or sniper, accounting for more than 150 killed on the opposing force's side. His incredible accuracy contributed greatly to the preservation of many lives of those whom he has served during the war, including remembering for countless acts of valour and tragic carnage.